Good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people here. Thank you, Seth, for the introduction. So I'm really happy to welcome you to the 2025 MIT Aspen Institute Conference on Building Trust in Science for a More Informed Future. An event like this comes together only with the support of our collaborators and sponsors. So please join me in thanking our co-hosts, the Aspen Institute Program in Science and Society, MIT's Graduate Program in Science Writing, and the MIT Press, as well as the many other sponsors supporting the conference this week. You can see the full list of sponsors on the screens beside me. Thank you. I'm also grateful to Seth and Amy for their vision and their efforts to bring us together today. Many thanks to them and to the members of the Planning Committee for devoting their time to the event. And you can see the program committee here. Join me in thanking them, please. So I'll start where I often start, the data. Data and facts are drivers of your work and mine, and I'm sure they will be guiding the conversations throughout the course of the conference. There are two surveys that I think are relevant. The first is a study published in Nature in January by more than 100 academics from universities across the globe, including MIT. They surveyed citizens from 68 countries to measure public trust in scientists. They find in most countries, trust in scientists runs high, and people believe scientists should be involved in policy making. Here in the United States, another survey done by Pew Research found that 76% of respondents have a great deal of or fair amount of confidence in scientists to act in the public's best interest. However, communication is seen as an area of relative weakness for scientists, according to the survey, which found that just over about 1/2 of the respondents disagreed that the phrase good communicators is an apt description for scientists. And this reflects sentiments before the many, even daily, challenges we are experiencing out of Washington these days. I'm not going to expand on that. I know you all know exactly and probably have been experiencing what we have been. We're working hard to communicate the value of science to society as we fight to build public support for the scientific research, discovery, and evidence that is needed in our society. At MIT, an essential way we do that is by shining a bright light on the groundbreaking work of our faculty, research scientists, staff, postdocs, and students. I'd like to highlight a few examples of how we are building trust in science, educating the next generation of science communicators, and bringing the value of science to the public in our backyard, across the globe, and in Washington. First, the MIT Press takes up this critical work on a staggering range of topics, from AI and climate science to public health and infectious diseases. Established more than 60 years ago, it's one of the largest university presses in the world. Each year, it produces more than 1 million digital and print publications consumed by scholars, policymakers, and academics across the globe. Technology Review is another venerable MIT organization. It just celebrated its 125th anniversary and has evolved from an alumni magazine to an authoritative hub of journalism specializing in deep dive digital content and engaging events and programs that feature breakthrough technologies. And MIT News publishes stories on research topics spanning climate science, human health, technology policy, and much, much more. Those stories generate about 1 million page views each month, with top stories getting tens of thousands of views from around the world. Over its 42-year history, the Knight Journalism Program at MIT has hosted more than 400 fellows who represent leading media outlets across the globe, including the Associated Press, Bloomberg News, Le Monde, the Australian Broadcasting Company, and the largest newspaper in Brazil, to name a few. Its mission is to improve, strengthen, and connect science journalism around the world. Through its international fellowships, the program has forged collaborations with several university partners, including those in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Many graduates of the MIT Graduate Program in Science Writing hold full-time editorial positions at publications such as Science, Scientific American, and New Scientist. Others have written for major publications, including The Atlantic, the New York Times, Nature, and many more. Locally, the MIT Museum attracts visitors to campus with its thought-provoking and interactive exhibits, which help to bring scientific discoveries to life for the public and in an accessible and approachable way. Last year, the museum reached 2 major milestones. It welcomed its largest number of visitors ever, and the museum's annual Cambridge Science Festival drew a record 50,000 attendees to the week-long community celebration of pioneers in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. As I said, it's great to see such a large crowd of scientists, educators, journalists, policymakers, and communicators here in Cambridge this morning. I hope this event gives you the opportunity to create an even more powerful network for sharing information and developing innovative approaches to science communication. With society confronting existential challenges against a backdrop of polarization and misinformation, science stories need to be told now more than ever, and you are the people who need to tell them. Thank you. And now, I get to introduce MIT Institute Professor Robert Langer to help kick off today's program. Bob will be joining us via video. And Bob is one of those colleagues who absolutely needs no introduction. His pioneering research has transformed a range of human health technologies, including anti-cancer and gene therapies, vaccine development, and so much more. Thank you, Bob, for sharing your reflections with us today.
Thank you, Cindy, and it's an honor to be able to speak to you all this morning. So I thought what I'd try to do is just share 2 personal experiences with you about why science communication is so important to me as a professor and scientist and engineer. The first of those really goes back a long ways when I graduated from MIT in 1974, and I began working with a doctor named Judah Folkman at Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And the project that we were working on was to see if we could isolate the very first substances that could stop blood vessels from growing to tumors, and hopefully in so doing, make tumors grow much slower or even stop them. Most everyone thought that that was impossible. But we were able to publish several papers in the journal Science that certain extracts of cartilage could, for the first time, actually stop blood vessels from growing. We did this in different types of species or sites that were kind of artificial just because there was no way to really study blood vessel growth. This was like in what are called chick eggs and also corneas. But we found that cartilage in different species, including sharks, and cows could actually do this. And that would actually change the whole paradigm that people now could someday believe that these things could be done. But after we published this, there was a man named Bill Lane who seized upon that discovery and said that scientists from Harvard and MIT showed you could actually stop cancer by feeding ground up shark cartilage, which of course is not what we did. I mean, we basically, he made it totally different ways than we did, and we gave it in sites like a cornea or a chick egg, whereas he was saying you could just swallow it, but he forgot to say those kinds of things. Nonetheless, he went to see 60 Minutes, and they came to visit us in 1991. And 2 years later, they put on a show. If we could, if we, you can see this slide about sharks don't get cancer. And Mike Wallace interviewed Bill Lane and others, and basically, what they said is that this is remarkable, that these patients are really feeling much better and it's treating cancer and so forth, kind of like what happened with Laetrile. And so what happened was all because of the 60 Minutes report, which, by the way, they put on twice, that they countless people would call us up, countless people would end up taking this rather than real treatments that might have helped them. And I'm sure many died because of it. The only positive that over the years that would happen is because of funding from NIH and NCI to our lab and Dr. Folkman's, and because of companies like Genentech. Eventually, many years later, the first blood vessel inhibitors did get approved, like Avastin and others that are now widely used, and they're now used for treating diseases like not only cancer, but also diseases of blindness. But to me, it was a very shocking thing that the media could have such an effect. He actually took out an ad in the New York Times saying in 60 Minutes, they showed all this, and then everybody started buying shark cartilage as a nutritional supplement. The second story I wanted to tell you is that, and some of you may know this, is that I've been involved in nanotechnology for creating the first nanoparticles that could deliver nucleic acids, and I also got involved in helping to start Moderna. And of course, I thought these things were really important, but it was surprising to me in a way how the press reacted to it. You'd get a lot of calls, and it seemed to me that they were more interested in creating controversy a lot of times than in real facts. Actually, if we go to the next slide, the National Bureau of Economic Research actually did an analysis, and they pointed out that 91% of the stories in U.S. Major media outlets were negative in tone, compared to 44%, in non-U.S. sources, and they also pointed out that the negativity of this was notable even in areas of positive scientific developments. Finally, on the bottom of the slide, if you can see it, they say among U.S. major media outlets, they said stories discussing Donald Trump and hydroxychloroquine are more numerous than all stories combined that cover companies and individual researchers working on COVID-19 vaccines. And in fact, locally, if we go to the next slide, our local newspaper, the Boston Globe, their front page headlines when Moderna announced the initial phase 1 trials showing that there were high levels of antibodies, their first thing was to say, this was now on May 19th, 2020, that this is not how you do science, with my picture underneath it. I only point this out to say that headlines are actually important. The article itself wasn't so bad, but I think trying to give both points of view. But headlines also can be extremely important. So sometimes people say, well, given all this, why do you talk to people? And I thought I'd show one final slide, which is when I received the Kyoto Prize. People asked me, the reporter asked, well, why did I talk to the media? And I just think it's so important. And that's why I think it's so important that you're all talking today, because the media can reach, as I'm pointing out here, so many more people than I, as any individual professor, can. And I think science can do a tremendous amount of good. So I try to talk to the media, when they ask questions. And I also think it's so important because the media can get across to so many people, and it affects in particular young people who I think are very important to reach. And as I ended this, I said, whatever number of people I could reach in a lecture, the media will multiply that by 10 or 100 or thousands. And so I think what you're doing today is just so, so important. And I want to thank you for coming here. And it's an honor to speak to you. I hope people have great discussions all day. Thank you so much.